when the right people come together at the right moment, when they care almost as much about winning as they do about each other, they can become the best of the best.
Go! It's the best soccer show. Postgame USA 6. El Salvador 0. The United States men's national team dropping a 6th spot on El Salvador tonight. We are live here for you, the American soccer fan. We are taking your phone calls. Let me just go ahead and give the phone number right now, 717-727-2378, so that the people can join us, Jared, and give us their thoughts about what we just witnessed.
The people. We're the people's show.
We are the people's show.
It's I think if you're playing against a very poor El Salvador side, the first half is what you were looking for. Second half, maybe just taking care of business a little bit, to foot off the pedal. But the first half, that's the scoreline you need to put up against a team that was, let's be honest, poor.
It was an extremely bad El Salvador team. And look, you can only play the team that's in front of you. The United States wasn't able to schedule anybody else. You know, you threw this together just to get a camp because you haven't had much action in 2000. Zero action, Jared. It's sort of like, you know, we're always looking for action. Right? We didn't get any for a while. So
it's been about a week.
You kind of get desperate, you know what I'm saying? And you feel like you need to step up and just, you know, whatever, throw somebody against the wall. In this case, El Salvador. And if it wasn't, look, what I said before the game tonight was on my radio show. I actually said it today. Do you know about my radio show? Have you seen my radio show?
It's like something called Counterattack or something.
You're going to hurt me. Oh, you're going to hurt me. Okay. I said what I cared about was chances created and a clean sheet because I didn't think they should give up goals to El Salvador. Now, they didn't do that, and they finished their chances. So how can I be anything but ecstatic right now? How can I be anything but happy right now?
Yeah, I don't think there's too much to be let down on. I think you got to look at some players that you don't get to see that often on a level that you haven't seen many of them at before. Things that were pluses, obviously Chris Mueller's a plus. His performance, 2 goals, 2 assists. Is that where it ended up? Just 2 goals, 2 assists.
That is cash money.
Cash money.
Cash money Mueller. Okay.
I'm still going for the professor.
He's not the professor. Well, you can call him the professor in addition to
Cash money
Mueller because he is Cash Mueller. And we're going to spice it up. And I just created that drop for Cash Money Mueller. And before we came on the air, I said, hey, Nicky Soup and Sausage, have you ever bought a Big Timers album? He said, no. And then you came on and I said, do you know who the Big Timers are? And I think you went blank,
I
right?
guarantee you there's not a person in the chat that knows who the Big Timers are.
Let's actually test this. Does anybody in the chat know who the Big Timers are and who makes up the Big Timers? Come on. I want to see if our chat is on top of it. This isn't even like current references. This is like old man rap references. Okay. So that's where we are with this. The other thing about this lineup, I know there's another Mueller lookalike. You want to throw it out there?
I don't know who Nate Diaz is.
Oh, I think he's a UFC fighter.
Yeah, he is.
All right. So the other thing I was thinking when I saw the lineup, and the lineup was, it was a mix. There were lots of youngsters in it. We talked about Brendan Aronson. He's in it. We talked about Mark McKenzie when we were doing the Zoom earlier for the Besties. He was in it. I was excited about that. Yes, Aaron Long was in it. We know what he is, but you only had Walker Zimmerman, so somebody else, had to step up in there because we knew what Walker Zimmerman could do. He started Sam Vines at left back, which I think was a slight surprise.
There wasn't really much other option, really.
No, it's true. Jackson Ewell obviously gets the start because he's the only defensive midfielder in the group. But, Areola comes back. Akinola's up there. I'm happy. This is what I decided I want from my national team head coach, Jared. I want my national team head coach to get me excited. That's what I want. I want him to be like my wife.
That's his job?
Well, it could be my wife's job sometimes. It could be my national team head coach's job sometimes. It depends on the moment.
I feel like it's the player's job to get you excited, not the coach.
Oh, in this kid, okay, you're actually
saying his formation is supposed to get you excited. Is that what you're saying? His style of play
before the game, in terms of the lineup in a match like this, where what are we talking about here? We're not talking about the best team the United States can offer. So I want to see a couple of different names, a different look in there, youngsters who I think have bright futures, and that's who we got. Julian Araujo, by the way, excellent in that first half, especially.
I've never heard that before. No one's ever said that before.
Do you want credit for discovering Julian Araujo? Is that where you're
I
at?
want credit for being on the bandwagon early and not just being a Galaxy homer. Like, here's the thing.
Well, but you are. You are a Galaxy homer.
That in addition to other things.
Okay.
But the kid closes down.
Yeah.
He plays good first-time balls. It gets it behind defenders. He's a quality. The problem is sometimes he wants to have too much fun. And like he wants to do a pass that's maybe not the right pass, but that's also kind of what you want from that player in the modern game.
Doesn't that fit the group that we've got coming together? Not this or this one, obviously. The cockiness, the confidence. I mean, look at Serginho Dest, who, by the way, Julian Araujo could be in the mix at that position. It's not like we expect him to knock Dest off the pedestal right now,
or even Reggie Cannon for that point. Does that matter?
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. So, and by the way, Reggie Cannon, a different player than Dest and then Araujo. And if we're going to be this team now that has talented, creative, skilled players at fullback, I mean, my God, man, when did this happen? How are we going to do this?
The only problem is they're all right-footed. That's our biggest issue right now.
We got some lefties in the mix. Sam Vines was fine tonight. He was pretty good.
He was fine going forward. But with Brendan Aronson in front of him most of the time, I think Aronson was taking up a lot of that space on the wing where Vines would normally get into. Whereas Areola, you saw cutting in a little bit more from the right-hand side. And by the way, props to Areola. I did not expect to see Paul Areola starting this game, contributing at the level that he did. He looked like he hadn't really missed a beat since the last time he was with the national team. Yeah,
we do have a phone call, and the phone lines are open, and we expect you to call to give us your perspective on tonight. 6-0 in Fort Lauderdale. It is Mike from Philly who joins us.
Michael freaking Orozco Friscal.
It's been a long time since Michael freaking Orozco Friscal was in a lineup like this. It's a different era. Mike, what's up, man?
Hey, let's go, guys. That was pretty good. That was nice. Refreshing, huh?
Listen to us. We're all jaded now. 6-0.
We're like, just wants to talk. He just wants to talk Philly. Just get to it, Mike.
Yeah, the Philly homers are
No. So hear me out. I'm 100% a homer, and it was great to see Aronson get a goal and assist. I mean, he had a great game, but I'm higher on McKenzie than anything else, to be honest. I think his composure and intelligence back there, ability to hit passes out of the back, is really, really something good. I hope he gets a chance to partner with Brooks at some point against some higher level of competition.
What did you make of his performance tonight, Jared? Mark McKenzie.
I thought Mark McKenzie was the weaker of the two center backs. And that being said, they weren't asked to do much.
What were they doing?
No, I mean, I was not.
By the way, Mark McKenzie, whatever you want to say defensively, and obviously that's his chief job. That's in his description. But he got robbed of a goal. There was no chance he was offside on that goal, right?
No, I don't think he was off. I don't think he was off at all. I think it was an unfortunate call where the game didn't have VAR. He was fine. I thought Aaron Long's passing going forward was a little bit better. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Well, he's also more comfortable at this level in this system. And I
thought McKenzie looked like he had some nerves the first 20 minutes. After that, I thought he looked pretty good.
And we're allowing nerves, right? And that's why you play this game. You play El Salvador in December in Fort Lauderdale in front of nobody, so you can get the nerves out, right? So you can shake out all the nerves, especially for these young players.
That being said, though, I think Aronson looked a lot more comfortable at this level. Aronson looked like he dropped right into this game, knew exactly where he was supposed to be.
Very, very good. He looks really, really good. And, you know, we unfortunately, I mean, we were talking about Brendan Aronson making his move to Europe and everything that it entails, and he's going to go play for a guy that knows him in Jesse Marsh. That close. They lost 2-0 today, so they missed out on the knockout rounds of the Champions League, which could have involved Brendan Aronson after he makes his move in January. But Atletico Madrid took down Jesse Marsh and the Salzburg team, so that's not going to happen. But clearly, the kid looks like he belongs at this level.
For people don't know, let's address this real quick. It's in the chat. One of the people in the chat, Rob Daly, say, "Why no Efra Alvarez tonight?" He was unfortunately not able to play. He's appeared for Mexico. Yeah, he's ineligible. He was able to come into camp, be part of the team. Obviously, Greg Berhalter's courting him heavily, but couldn't actually play for the U.S. until he completes paperwork.
I'm just going to say here, my man William Stevenson, that does not sound like a name of a person who would know what big timers are, but he does. Aronson earned himself some gator boots with a pimped out Gucci suit. That is a big timers reference. My man William Stevenson absolutely knows.
You got one guy.
His
Well
early
done.
2000s hip hop. Thank you very much, William. I appreciate you bailing me out here because I don't know what you're saying about our fan base that they wouldn't know who the big timers are. Like, I just don't know what that means.
I just had never heard of that. I never
You-
heard
you
that,
say
those,
things like-
those words together until tonight.
You say things like screeching weasel, and I say nobody knows what that is, and you're like, "What are you talking about?" They're like massive. I don't know what that means. Screeching weasel. I don't
I
understand.
never said they're massive. They're Chicago punk from the,
Oh.
the 80s and 90s. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, I don't know. There's other bands you're like,
His
oh,
name's
this
Ben
band.
Weasel. How awesome is that?
Who's the band you like?
All of I don't know. I got
Jimmy
plenty of bands
what
I
now?
like.
Jimmy something.
I like Jimmy Eat World.
Okay, Jimmy Eat World. Do you think more people know who Jimmy Eat World is than know who the big timers are?
Yes.
No, I don't think that's right. It
Jimmy
depends
Eat
on
World
who
had a
you-
number one song.
Okay, but the big time. Come on, man.
I'm just telling you. That's just a fact.
If we compare
On
record
the
sales,
alternative charts. I'm not sure how
if
far
we
you got
compare
on the
record
charts.
sales, who do you think has sold more records?
Oh my God. People don't care about this. They just want to talk about Chris Mueller.
They do want to talk about Chris Mueller, who you have dubbed the professor. Do you think he earned his professorship?
Yeah, because like the
Thank you.
professor from the And One mixtapes, he can both dish and score.
Okay, that's true. He can put it in the hoop as well. Justin in Jersey, you're on the air. What's up, man?
Going on, guys? First time caller.
Appreciate
What's
you
up, bud?
calling in. It's a good time celebrating 6-0. Tell us. I know. You've already given us a warning in the chat that you are here to be a homer over the Philly boys again.
I certainly am, at least over Brendan. Mark, Jared wasn't wrong in that the center backs weren't asked to do a lot. But Brendan got himself established early. I will say, having not, been a huge fan of Orlando's fans because they can tend to be a bit much. Chris Mueller actually really surprised me, and I was actually happy to see his performance. Although Mark did get robbed of a goal, let's be honest.
Do you think that, Jared, that Chris Mueller gets saddled with this straight line player stuff that, think about the players that have come through the national team the last couple of years that have kind of been in that role. I mean, Ethan Finley got a cup of coffee. I'm thinking about who's the kid from RSL who was in there briefly, Corey Baird. Like,
Yeah, I think is Paul Areola too different than that, to be honest with you?
no, probably not. But I think industry and defensive ability is Paul Areola's extra level. Like, I think Paul Areola frustrates me sometimes with his touch and his decision making, but he's good enough.
No,
That he
I
can
think
drop
Paul
up on occasion.
Areola is the next generation's Alejandro Bedoya. A very similar player.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, but in terms of their industry, not necessarily their
Yes.
spot on the field. Well, I guess Areola did. Or
Bedoya would play when
Bedoya-
he was playing for the national team.
he
He was
did play
playing
out
on the
wide.
right.
You're right. So where does Chris Mueller fall into the?
I
that
think
group?
he's got more of a slasher role than that. I think he can come inside. He's not committed to always have to be on the wings. I think he's a more dynamic and more forward thinking player than some of the guys we just mentioned. I think he is a very similar player in terms to someone like Clint Dempsey, to be honest with you, in terms
Okay.
of what the part of the field he wants to play on that left hand side, cutting in. Unfortunately, it's also what Christian Pulisic likes to do, and that's going to
Sure.
be tough for Chris Mueller in the
But
long
again,
term.
Not all of this has to be about the first 11. This is about depth. This is about having options. Again, the number of players who are going to be needed next year is going to be massive. This is all part of that as well. Justin, we kind of stole your thunder there. What else you got?
No, the only thing I really have to wonder is I know Daryl DK was hurt for the game, but do you think I feel like this game would have been big for his skill set of holding the ball up? I don't know what you guys think.
I honestly thought this game, the way I watched the first 15 to 20, 25 minutes was really set up well for Akinola. If you go back and watch those first 20 minutes again, watch where he's positioning himself against the back four. He is constantly on their back shoulder. This guy got into really good positions that people didn't see in the midfield. He was begging for a slotted ball through.
They were. Thanks for the call, Justin. They also, again, this is about how bad El Salvador was defensively with that insanely high line that they were playing. The United States was also able to switch fields and get out wide and have tons of space to do basically whatever they wanted out there. And I know I saw your tweet about slip Akinola in. He's right there, but it was not necessarily their first instinct because there was so much space out on the wings. Let's go to Greg in Los Angeles. What's up, Greg?
Los Angeles. How's it going, guys? First of all, so psyched to have you guys back doing these shows again. I looked forward to these so much during World Cup qualifying a couple rounds ago. Anyway, you kind of stole my thunder there, Jared. I was going to talk about Ayo. I think the way that he extended that back line and he created space by his runs, even if he wasn't the one getting the ball. Like, the fact of the matter is that guy is so dynamic. He's pushing the lines in places where, frankly, I don't think even Josie would be pushing him. That's my thought.
Yeah,
No,
one of those goals. Don't forget that I think it was Chris Mueller's maybe his second or first goal where that wasn't his. I'm sorry, maybe Areola's, but it was based off of Akinola's penetrating run where he was literally got to the keeper the same time as the ball and the ball squirted back out. But that's because he's pushing himself so much forward than some of the, like when you watch Sebastian Jet play a false nine, no one was going to do that in that lineup. And honestly, no one's done that in this lineup for a while. That's the difference also between DK and Akinola.
That Josie had that club in his bag 6 years ago, 5 years ago. He doesn't have that club in his bag anymore. It's certainly that's
but even
go ahead.
I mean, I hear you, but like think about Josie. What I loved about him was that he could hold the ball up, but I never saw him come as far back to get the ball to play a little bit of like he was. Ayo was on the left, the right. He was really all over the place. I was just really impressed by his movement, and we haven't seen a guy like that at 9 for us in a while.
Okay, I mean, I would argue that at his peak, Josie was doing similar things. Not as mobile, obviously not as mobile. I know that's what you're saying, but Josie is awesome. It's such an awesome passer of the ball. Josie with back to goal playing those flick-ons for midfielders running through. That's like my mental image of the national team from about 2009 to 2014, right? Those kind of balls. And you know, is Akinola going to play that way? Maybe not. Is DK going to play that way?
I think DK in the second half would have been a good move. The way the game worked out in the second half, when it was a little bit harder to push into that bunkered in defense, even after they're 5 goals down, still not pushing forward too much on the El Salvador side. And they tried to start making things dirty and nasty, and you wanted someone to hold that ball for a few more seconds. That's where I think DK would have been more effective. But in the first half, I think Akinola was the right striker for that first half.
Yeah, and you know, again, to get their feet wet in this situation, I think that was everything about what what Berhalter was kind of, you know, he was trying to accomplish. Like, what else are you going to accomplish in this game except to get some experience for these guys, again, especially ahead of 2021 with that. We're going to have a special guest joining us in just a couple of minutes here on the Best Soccer Show. You might know him from this time with the U.S. men's national team, as a matter of fact, so it'll give us a chance to talk
about handsome Instagrams.
Perhaps. Thanks for the call, Greg. I do appreciate it. Greg in Los Angeles joining us to talk about Ayo Akinola. I just like saying Ayo, and I wanted a goal from him so I could say Ayo goal. Now someone, and that's sort of in the tradition of Gabi goal or Bati goal, these South American players who kind of pull that goal word into their names. I like that. Somebody on Twitter suggested it should be Akingola. Do you think that's better?
I think that's way better. Well, way better. You don't have to explain. You have to explain yours.
No, I don't. Not if you know
did.
soccer. Come on. Okay, how about this? The goal itself is the Ayo goal, and then we call him Akingola.
I'm okay with that. I like Akingola. I like puns. You know, I love puns.
I know you like a pun. All right, so let's do this. Our guest coming up here on the United States. Sorry, that's my radio show, the Best Soccer Show. I'm not around here. Don't you already took a shot at me, so
I'll just let that hang there.
Oh, yeah. Former U.S. men's national team player, and as Jared said, handsome Instagrammer, and a guy who's going to be hosting a podcast with someone who played tonight in Fort Lauderdale. Heath Pierce with us. Heath, what's up, man?
What's going on, guys? Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, you look looking good, man. The backdrop, the whole thing. What do we got? What's that? What do we got?
It's backwards. I got an old John O'Brien right here.
Okay.
I want that so bad.
I'm looking down because the camera's up there somewhere. But I got an old vintage U.S. Soccer that Talisman Co. hooked it up. I got a mug that somebody made for me of David Beckham elbowing me in the head.
That's amazing.
A foul was called on that, and it did make my highlight reel.
One of the 25 greatest MLS players of all time, David Beckham, as a matter of fact, which I don't know.
Interesting.
All right, Heath, 6-0 against El Salvador. First of all, give us your impressions of what you saw tonight.
Yeah, look, I mean, one, they didn't break the record against Barbados, which they definitely should have against an El Salvador like that. I was in the Barbados game, and there wasn't a whole lot of differences between in quality. But and I thought I heard you guys saying it right when I was coming on. It's really, really hard to judge anything out of these games. And it can only go wrong, right? And you don't expect it to. Within the first few minutes, you're like, okay, you can see what's going on here. This is going to be potentially a bloodbath. And it was. And it's just really, it's hard to take individual moments or individual players and say, what can they do to be better, right? I was talking to somebody about Mark McKenzie, for example, who, okay, second cap, an opportunity. The center back position is wide open in terms of who is going to play with John Anthony Brooks. But what can he do? Show that he can spray the ball with his left foot to the other side, or that he can, advance the ball or break lines with a pass of lines that are never going to be open in most cases.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. And it starts going into this whole, like, well, get him in the box, see if you can get a goal. That would be a memorable moment. But outside of that, it's just.
Which he did.
Yeah. Count it. He should count it. I would count it. But it's so hard to measure or judge quality in these moments. I mean, what was your guys' take?
Well, I want to actually, I'm so happy you're going to come on, because as a guy who's played defense at the national team level, what did you take from like someone like Julian Rahu we talked about earlier in this show, playing on that right side of defense? Like we said, the defender's hard to make a name for yourself tonight unless you're one of the wingers, the wingbacks back there. A little bit more opportunity for him and Sam Vines to show. What did you think from those two positions tonight?
Yeah, I thought they were great, but again, like overloading sides in a 2v1 situation, what is the risk in overlapping every time your team has the ball, right? What is the punishment?
Counterattack potentially.
Yeah, a counterattack, but who's going to do that from El Salvador, right? In theory, you would like to see that balance where they're picking and choosing their moments because they're forced to be honest. And again, you look at those outside back positions, and Arahu, if you look, you have Dest, you have Cannon, you have Yedlin. Like, the depth chart is there, and this is an opportunity that he might not get otherwise. And I believe he's U20 or at least U23 eligible, so he will have his moments. But you look at those situations and go, what could he possibly do other than show an ability to go forward and take what the game gives him, which I was excited about.
What? So real quick, I mean, talking about the age eligibility, that's where we are, where Berhalter is throwing a bunch of players who are eligible for the Olympic team and the Olympic qualifying, which is going to be, it's going to be a problem because clubs aren't always willing to release players for things like that. So you get an opportunity to kind of mix those guys in. You treat it as a senior event. What kind of things can those players take away just from the experience of being there, Heath, in the camp, playing in the game, regardless of what the quality of the match was?
Look, even beyond this group of players, right? You're starting to see this. There's been all this pressure of like, oh, who's going to be the leader in this team? Who's gonna do this or that? And they don't have any veterans and whatnot. But when you look at it, like all of the success that's happening right now for the guys playing in Champions League and Europa League, right? For the U.S. national team, Timo Weah starting tomorrow. There's this rallying of support of all these players just backing each other, right? They're all commenting. They're part of this generation where, a generation before them is probably a lot more negativity on the social platforms. And these guys are all super positive, supporting each other, building on each other. And that translates into camp, right? There's like this new sort of vibe and again, that can go away right away when you lose a game of consequence. But there's this energy and positivity of young players coming together, new generation, forget the past type of thing. And you can sort of see that swagger on the players, both in the November friendlies and as well as today. And being in the camp, you learn so much. I remember my first time going into camp, for example, we were playing away at Hampden Park in Scotland. And I'd barely been a pro, maybe 7-8 months, a lot like some of these guys. And I remember just being like, dude, that's DeMarcus Beasley. That's Carlos Bocanegra. These are big players that I'm around. And being able to be around guys who had some more camps. Granted, this group doesn't have that, whatever, but that crest means something, When you get into a training where the speed is faster than you've ever had, there's all these things that you take back to your club situation and go, oh yeah, I'm ready for this. I'm going to challenge myself. That's the next level. I can see what that's like. I've now been in that atmosphere. And that's where you start to see that growth curve jump quicker, like you saw with Brendan Aronson over the last 12 months.
Yeah, when you talk about that social media opportunity and platform for these younger players, every time I say Yunus Musa like little fire emoji or something like that on one of these guys' posts. I'm like, okay, we got a chance. He might be with us. And that
He's bumping in his living room.
And that brings me to a point though. When we talk about dual internationals like Yunus Musa, obviously there is an area in the field where that is somewhat open for him to get into. When you go back and you look at someone like you were talking about, Julian Araujo, and the depth above him, how likely is he to choose the United States to play for? Because we have a ton of dual nationals here we have to choose from. And some of them are like Julian Araujo, where there's 3 guys above him, one of them being Serginho Dest. What's the realistic possibility that he chooses the U.S. when he could choose Mexico and have less competition at that position?
Can I just stop us for a second? You just hear what you said, that a player might not pick the United States because there's less competition with Mexico. I mean, I know that's, sometimes that's circumstantial, but that's not something we always
in this age group that he's playing
with. No, you're right about it. I'm just saying that it's kind of crazy to think about with this group that we've got, Heath.
Yeah, it's different, right? Like, even if you're Efrain Alvarez, right? All the talent in the world, but where does he fit? Where does he fit in Greg's style of play? He obviously has the abilities. He obviously has the youth on his side. He's obviously going to be a fantastic player, but he is more of an attacking player. He is more of your towards a 10 than he is a two-way type of player. And that position is such a royalty or a luxury to have that where does he fit? And Mexico has always catered to more of those specialty type of players that you can build a team around, whether it's a Dos Santos or a Vela or some of these guys that can create special moments all by themselves, but you're giving up something on the other side. And when you look at Araujo, yeah, it's hard to say, but at the same time, you go to any other, as you start to develop into these countries, take dual nationals out of it, you want to be 4 deep, right? You want to know that you've got, to put it into context for me, when I was playing club soccer in Germany, I had a 17-year-old coming up, breathing down my neck. I had another guy I was competing with, 2 in a position. You had another guy that could slot in, right, in an emergency situation. And then you had somebody coming up from the youth. And that's what sort of shaped it. I obviously failed to meet the expectations and challenges of having that much competition. But that's what you want. And if anything, that's going to push everyone to be better. Perhaps that doesn't work in terms of recruiting. But Yunus Musa, just give him the Young Player of the Year award from U.S. Soccer, even though he hasn't committed to us. That's how you do it. Just give it to him.
Look, I also think I'm sure every player has their own sort of thought process on this. Some of them may think, oh, look at all these players in front of me. And by the way, you're talking about a 19-year-old in Julian Araujo. You're talking about a 17-year-old in Efrain Alvarez. I mean, these kids are so young, and yet the players in front of them are also young. So you're not looking and saying, well, that guy's going to leave in 4 years and I'll have my shot in a World Cup. You wonder if you'll ever get your shot, but also competition. I mean, that's the thing about this generation of players, and maybe more than we've ever had in American soccer, guys who really are confident that they can do it at the highest level. Now, Araujo and Alvarez aren't playing there yet, but why wouldn't they think that they'll be in Europe in 2 or 3 years playing in a Champions League environment like some of the guys that are in front of them right now, and think, you know what, whatever, Yunus Musa, whatever, Serginho Dest, I got a shot at that. I can do it. I'm going to stick with the U.S. national team.
Yeah, I definitely support that, right? I think there's no player going, like, we were getting players that couldn't play for other national teams previously, right? We were getting players that were dual nationals, but, most of the German-American guys weren't going to play for Germany, right? Didn't have much of a shot. We're pretty far. You're talking about 10, 12 on a depth chart, right? Or maybe even higher than that, but not so much that where it was like on a bubble, do I want to do this or not? And there's a number of reasons why you choose to play for a country that you choose to. I don't want to go down that route. But there's no reason that Araujo doesn't think that he's better than DeAndre Yedlin,
right?
Or that he can be on the same trajectory of like 1-2 years here, and then now I'm where? Schalke maybe, and then maybe I'm the next club, right? Nobody could chart Weston McKennie where he's at now over the last month. Really solid player in the Bundesliga. Schalke, a big traditional club, haven't been that great over the last couple of years. No one saw this whole like, oh yeah, Juventus is going to take him. And you know what? He's going to score a volley against Barcelona in the Champions League. But that's a belief that he had. We all saw talent. We all saw potential. But now you're starting to see Tyler Adams. Could he actually be a good player at RB Leipzig? Would he be a starter? Went through the trenches of that. Like, we're seeing guys that look at themselves differently than we are looking at them, which is that Araujo is going to say, yeah, bring it, right? I want to play for the best national team possible, not the one that's going to give me the best opportunity to be a starter.
Yeah, I'm sure you got something, Jared. But also, like, again, we're also seeing Major League Soccer do a better job. And I don't want to say it's all puppy dogs and rainbows, But Aronson's getting a shot to go to Europe. We expect other players to follow shortly. I mean, other players are going. So Reggie Cannon got his chance. Even if it's Portugal, he's going to use that as a stepping stone. There's already other clubs talking about him, bigger clubs talking about Reggie Cannon. So if you're Araujo, if you're Alvarez, if you're any of those dual national that are also in Major League Soccer, you can see the pathway. And maybe that's part of it.
Heath, who's the guy, when you look at the lineup tonight, who's the guy you're pulling over on the side afterwards and said, get to Europe? Who's the guy that needs to get to Europe first out of these 23 guys that you saw tonight?
It's hard to say because age is so important in that conversation, right? When I look at Mueller, I'm like, hey, if you got an opportunity, go. Because you're on the older side of what this new group is. You don't really have this pathway. There's depth there, right? You're going to be behind Jordan Morris, you're going to be behind Pulisic, you're going to be behind Weah if he's there, Musa if they play him on in a wide position, Timo Weah if he's playing regularly. You've got to go into an environment where you make it very hard for us to not pick you. Because it's a good performance tonight against a lackluster El Salvador team, but people have seen glimpses and flashes that they're like, I want to see a larger sample size of that to be able to decide on him. He's definitely one. Where's another spot in here? I think Mark McKenzie as well, because look, you're talking about Aaron Long, Mark McKenzie, and Zimmerman all fighting for basically to play next to Brooks. And you have Miazga still, which I think these guys are, all three of them are ahead of. You have Reem, who I think these guys are ahead of, but one of them is going to emerge, and one of them is going to rise. And it doesn't mean they need to go abroad, but Mark McKenzie has the shortest path in terms of his valuation, in terms of the plan and the system that Philadelphia Union have. They actually have the goal of selling him, so there is an emphasis for them to do that. They're out shopping him. There's lots of clubs interested in him. So I think that's one where you can like plug him in right away if he's in the right club. I don't think Celtic is the right club. I don't think a Fulham or a club where you're just going to learn to fight and battle is going to be the right one for him, because I do think he has good feet. He should go somewhere where they try to play at least a little bit. But he's probably the one that I think where it's like, move that piece as quick as possible and kind of ride this wave that he's on as well.
Yeah, I think of those three center backs you talked about that are still in MLS, the first one to move has the best chance. It really is. I think getting that next level of competition and exposure, and Mark McKenzie being the youngest of them, make the move.
Yeah, I think the youth factor for Mark is definitely a thing. Now, although again, you talked about experience, Heath, earlier. Brooks brings experience by being the locked-in starter on that left side. Will Berhalter also sort of lean, even if they're not necessarily overly experienced national teamers, but they're older by comparison to this group, in Zimmerman, in Long, and see, maybe that pushes out. I don't think that pushes out Mark McKenzie, but maybe that pushes out some other players who are coming up behind them. Chris Richard hasn't been mentioned at all in the conversation. Now, I know he's not a fully blown senior level player with Bayern Munich yet, but he's getting starts in Champions League games that aren't that important, and he's playing all over the back line, which I think is interesting. And let me ask you about that, Heath, because, Chris Richards is a natural center back, but Bayern's using him in other positions. Does that push Berhalter to say, well, maybe we have other options at fullback where we're also kind of loaded at the moment?
Yeah. I mean, look, it all comes down to, and this was at least my theory of why I didn't go to the World Cup and make the final 23. If you're Chris Richards, your first pass should be get into the 23, right? Be part of that 23. And once you get past 17, you want to be a versatility player. If you can play 3 positions, you're golden. If you can play 2, you're in pretty good shape. And that's what hurt me. I was only really a left fullback at that point. I hadn't started playing left center back yet. I wasn't really playing in the midfield positions. But if you're Chris Richards, like, imagine experiencing a World Cup at whatever age he'll be next year or 2 years from now, and then being able to take that experience with you, because it's all about depth. If you remember any of the coaches in the past, it was all about, like, you had bring a Julian Green, bring Edson Buttle. You had
Donovan and Beasley in 2002.
You had Hercules Gomez, guys in Wondolowski, guys that are in form that you're like, you know what, I might get that gut feeling in a game, aka Belgium, which should have gone the other way for Wando. Like, those are the guys that you want to be able to call upon in the 80th, 90th minute, 95th minute to go out and try to create some sort of magic. You don't want to, in theory, you bring 23 players, right? 3 goalies and 2 in every position, but you want to bring 16 strong and then versatile players and then as many strikers or attackers as you can. That's at least how I've seen teams approach building out a roster. So for Richards, He can play right back. He can play center back. So he's somewhere in the depth chart to say, hey, this is our rainy day fund. He might not be our go-to guy, but in the worst of the worst, we can throw him in a bind if we can't pull our right back, our right midfielder into right back, or center back to right. He could be a guy that you can move around and know that you always have cover if you were to go into some injury situations or things like that.
Versatile players are worth their weight in gold at the World Cup, rather. Yeah.
And there's no better evidence of that right now than people who are frustrated. Why am I seeing Sebastian Lletget so much? Because he can play 6 positions on the front side. Like he literally can do most of the things. Not all of them as well as anyone else. Maybe not the best at any of them, to be honest with you. But Greg Berhalter trusts that player, and that says something for. I mean, every coach has had that guy in their past that they trust, and it looks like this is the one for Berhalter.
Well,
Bob had Michael. Greg has.
Go ahead.
No, I was a joke, but my point is that you're right. And the thing about Lletget is that he's become is when he's fit, you know what you're going to get from him. Like you said, he might not give you as much as anybody else, but the next best thing to being versatile is being consistent and knowing exactly, like you as you mentioned, Jason, about experience. Mark McKenzie might not have that, but you have 3 different types of defenders in the back line. Long is super athletic and put out fires. Yeah. Zimmerman, big body. Mark's probably the best on the ball in terms of distribution. And that's going to come down to, how do you want to play in CONCACAF? How do you want to play as a soccer philosophy moving forward? We started to see Greg tinker a little bit with, kind of move away from his initial plan with the players that are presenting themselves, which I think is a sign of maturity and also the quality of the players. But that's going to come down to that experience as well.
Yeah, and you need depth. Not just because, our starter got hurt, we need somebody to replace him, but also because, we've got a game here where this player is a better fit for what we're going to be dealing with. I mean, you go to El Salvador in World Cup qualifying or Honduras in World Cup qualifying or at home against those teams. It's obviously a different thing than you're playing Mexico. And maybe this program is moving to a point where we don't have to cede possession to Mexico as much as we used to, but it's still, you're going to be under heavy pressure. You're going to be dealing with Mexico's quick cutting passes. How are you going to defend that? Do you want Mark McKenzie, Aaron Long, and obviously this is up to Greg Berhalter. And now speaking of Mark McKenzie, Heath, since we've mentioned him several times, I know you got something coming up with Mark that you should tell the people about right now.
Yeah, so Mark and I launched a podcast actually today called Orange Slices. And very much like you guys, we both kind of grew up fascinated with the national team. In my generation, you didn't dream of, as a player growing up, I didn't dream of playing for a club team. I dreamed of playing for the national team, right? And that's sort of my first love, an entry point into the sport. And I think for most fans, it's that entry point. That's why you guys have this show. That's what it was built on, that core of the national team. And we want to try to celebrate sort of the past, present, and future through Mark McKenzie and I. He's obviously in this new crop of players. I'm in an older crop of players. There's far older players than me, and there's going to be far younger players than him. And sort of just trying to reunite and galvanize this fan base that I think is the sleeping giant that was around during the good days and get them to remember the good days through nostalgia, talk about some of the tougher days, and also look at the bright future that we have with our men's national team.
They say like fun. Winning cures everything, right? And this looks like a team that's built to win. So we'll see if the fan base follows.
Oh, so much fun. Heath Pierce joining us here on the Best Soccer Show. Heath, man, thank you very much for stopping by. Everybody go listen to Orange Slices and give Heath and Mark some love. That would be good. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Heath Pierce. Here's a question, Mr. Dubois, that I have for you. And it came to me today. Greg Berhalter is not at this point. It's not this thing where everybody trusts him to take this team to the top of the mountain. Okay. He's got to prove something himself, right? We're watching these players. They've got to grow into it. And yet, because Weston McKennie is scoring goals for Juventus in the Champions League, and Serginho Dest is starting for Barcelona, and Gio Reyna is starting for Dortmund and scoring goals, and Tyler Adams is in the Champions League and in the Bundesliga, and all of these players are coming together. And I've left out 3 others.
Excited over here.
Well, so what I'm saying is we kind of understand that the players are good enough. It's going to be down to the coach to put them in a position to win games, right? And not just qualify, although that's the first hurdle that he has to clear, but also to do something at the World Cup. Am I right to say that no national team head coach has ever been under more pressure to succeed than Greg Berhalter is right now?
I don't know. I don't think there's ever been a coach that's been under more pressure to win. Maybe Bruce Arena when the U.S. was ranked, 6th or 8th or something?
Yeah, we all knew that
knew that was a terrible ranking, but the mainstream media was reporting that.
Oh, yeah. SportsCenter was picking up on that. and it was bad
so
news.
you could say that there was a different kind of pressure there with Bruce Arena had going to a World Cup being ranked that high. But outside of that, in terms of managing talent with the expectation to win, this is the one. Greg Berhalter has a lot of pressure on him. And as you were naming those players, it was interesting to me that we're lucky in that none of those players are competing against each other. Like all those players can field. It's not like either of them are playing a position where you can't play him because the other guy, like where Reina's never going to see the field because Pulisic is playing. They all play different roles, and that's really, really interesting. Remember at one point, 3 of our 5 best players were all center mids.
Yeah.
It was crazy to say. There was just all this stuff where all these guys are spread out and they're all hitting their stride, and it's really almost makes you nervous at how good this could be.
See, that's just such the American attitude. Like, I'm nervous about how good we are or how good we could be. I mean, I get it. We haven't done anything yet, but I had somebody send me a tweet yesterday that it was after Weston McKennie's goal, actually. And he said something like, I'm so excited to see this happen. I'm watching these players in Champions League environments do stuff like this, but I'm so messed up in the head by being an American soccer fan that I can't stop thinking, well, maybe all these teams have regressed, and that's why our national team players are doing well.
It's like a country song. You got to learn to love again or something.
No, but I don't even think it's related to missing out on the World Cup. I just think in general, American soccer fans are conditioned not to believe our players are good enough. It's just what we do, right?
Well, it's been correct for a long time.
No, but even that might be true, and I get that. But if the evidence is in front of you, if you're witnessing things happen that clearly indicate Weston McKennie is damn good enough to play for Juventus on a regular basis and play in the Champions League and do things like he did this week. Obviously, it's Christian Pulisic, who's proven it over years now. It's not just like a year and he scored a couple.
And the U.S. fans are capable of it. Just look at how they support the women's team.
That's true.
The American fans are capable. We expect and don't get nervous about the fact that the women's national team is number one going into a World Cup.
That's the thing. The difference in those experiences, and I do get what you're saying, is that the U.S. women's national team sprinted out to a lead that's so immense that the rest of the world is still playing catch up 25 years later. Right? We're still watching the rest of the world try to figure out.
Tight.
And look, it's getting tighter. But they just won back-to-back World Cups. It's not tight enough yet that we have to really sweat our place as a contender. We might sweat our place as World Cup winners because they didn't happen from 1999 to 2015. Yeah, okay. Germany can pop up and all these. But we knew we were always in that mix. The men's national team, it was the opposite. Everybody else got that head start 150 years ago or 100 years ago, and we've been chugging along trying to catch up. Now, the problem is that they didn't stop running, right? Germany and Spain and in France and Italy, Brazil, they didn't stop running. They were always chugging along too. And we've had to run faster.
Yeah.
But I think that we are now.
Which increases your likelihood of tripping.
Well, that's
which is kind of what we did.
What? Don't bring me down.
I'm just saying that's kind of what we did in 2018, dude.
Okay, that's true. But I think it's more like this is a relay race and we had a bad leg. We had one runner.
Dropped the baton.
Maybe we dropped the baton, but you could also argue that
Joe's nails makes it so hard to grab that baton.
You could just argue that leg had a guy who was limping the whole time. Like he just couldn't get it going. He just, he had a handicap, but he not literally, that he gave the baton to this generation of players, a generation of players that are so exciting. They're now running twice as fast. And maybe we're going to catch up. I'm not saying we're going to catch up tomorrow or next year or next World Cup, but we're at least approaching the idea that we can catch up. We're at least on the same lap, right?
Yeah. Guys, phones are still open for a bit on the back end of the show here, 717-727-BEST. Real quick, I want to mention a name we haven't talked about yet tonight because I thought he had a really good game, and that's Jackson Yule.
Okay.
He looked really good on the pivot, really good in traffic. He's not asked to do a lot defensively in this game, but he was asked to do a lot in terms of distributing the game.
I did, I looked up a couple of times and caught him basically in El Salvador's box. And I'm thinking, if Jackson Yule's there, that's what kind of game it is. He's not supposed to be there unless it's just clear he's got nothing to worry about behind him. So there is that. I do have some important business here. I mean, we would take the phone calls. Everybody wants to chime in on this game, 6-0, the United States over El Salvador. But I wanted to say that I threw this up in our Slack for the Patreon people, the besties. we were trying to determine what Weston McKennie's call sign is going to be. And obviously we are working on that. All of these players are going to get a call sign eventually. Like this is the class. In fact, I clipped this up. I don't think it really is going to fit everything that I want to kind of express here, but do you remember this scene?
Gentlemen, you are the top 1% of all naval aviators. The elite. Best of the best. We'll make it better.
You remember that? Tom?
How could I not? I could hear the F-14 Tomcat in the background.
That's the best part. I watched it back today when I was putting this together. The fighter jets overhead as he's talking to these guys. It just it makes you all tingly. But Weston McKennie's the first one. We decided he was going to be the first one to get a call sign, and we will work on it. Mike and Philly's got another one here for Brendan Aronson, which, okay. I put it in the chat or in the Slack, the battle between Wildcat, which came up. I can't remember who said Wildcat, but I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
We had the original, which was what was the original? Lone Star, which was mine initially. You came up with Texas Ranger, which I just felt was a little too.
No, someone else did. I just I endorsed it.
You endorsed Texas Ranger. I endorsed Lone Star. Somebody else came up with Wildcat. And then I missed Sundance, which is an interesting possibility. Where do you fall right now?
I fall on Lone Star because here's the thing. For us, it's got to be pop culture related, and that's the way
we got to make him Lone Star.
I think we missed out on a potential subcategory, some form of Italian word that means one of these things, maybe.
You know,
he's in Italy and he's got the this down. He's got the this down. I'm pitching something I can't see in front of my face thing.
Now that's like his thing. It's funny.
It's like a reverse marionette motion or something.
The entirety of the entire country of Italy does this all the time, and suddenly it's Weston McKennie's move in the videos he's making for Juventus, like this.
So if there's an Italian word out there we're missing, that let's throw that in there too, because
we can go Italian direction. Whatever Ranger is in Italian. I don't know. So Mike, Jason, go ahead.
No, these 23 players that played tonight, or close to that. Let's stay with the starters, perhaps.
Okay.
Are any of them your starter in the real 23-man roster? Does any one of these guys have a starting role for you?
No.
Not even the center back. Is Matt Miazga's job, according to you?
Well, I actually prefer Aaron Long to Matt Miazga.
As do I.
Okay, so we're playing a game tomorrow. That's what we're doing. We're playing Mexico tomorrow. I'm starting Brooks and Long.
Okay, let's take that to the next evolution then.
Okay.
Any player that featured tonight, you would have a lock for your 23-man roster.
I think McKenzie's in my 23-man roster. I'm thinking 4 center backs, right? I think he's in there. Obviously, Long is in there. We've already established that. I would say Brendan Aronson is probably. I'd have to think about the numbers, but
he's very, very bubble cusp right there.
Yeah, and you know what? It's unfortunate that DK didn't play, but I think Akinola has to be in there because you just don't have depth at that position right now. So I mean, I guess how many center forwards are you taking? If you're taking Sargent, if you're taking Zardes, obviously there's a question about Altidore and fitness. Maybe Akinola doesn't make it, but it's closer than maybe for the rest of it.
I think he likely goes if he wants to take the cap. And also I would throw Sebastian Lett will be there, whether you like it or not. He'll be there.
I think he will be there because again, we established he's versatile, and
Paul Arriola. And here's the thing: when you talk about Brendan Aronson, you might be talking about Brendan Aronson or Paul Arriola in terms of where that cusp is and where that bubble is.
Maybe, but I think. Well, that's a good question, and we'd have to do that. We'd have to work out the entire 23-man. Like we really have to do the entire pool, and really figure out where that 23 limit is. Because
but I don't know that anyone advanced their case much. I think they all kind of finished right where they began. Maybe Brendan Aronson had, and we haven't said Chris Mueller in this conversation. Is it Chris Mueller?
No.
Is it Chris Mueller or Brendan Aronson? If you're taking one,
if you're taking Arriola, and you got Jordan Morris, and you got Gio Reyna. And
Christian
you have Musa, who can potentially play on the wing, and Christian Pulisic on the left-hand side. That's 5 wingers. You're taking 5 wingers? Well, Musa can play in the midfield, in the midfield 3. So maybe you don't count him as a winger. You're taking 4 wingers, 2 on the left, 2 on the right. You moving beyond that?
I don't know that you do.
No,
Because
probably not.
I don't know what you keep because we didn't say Gio Reyna in that conversation either.
No, I just did.
Oh, you did? I'm sorry. I didn't hear you say that one.
Gio Reyna into that group
Okay.
because that's where he's played for the national team.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get, I think there's one spot for either Areola, Aronson, or Mueller. And it's a matter of which one of those give you something different that you don't already have on the roster. And I'm not sure which one that is.
Aronson
Areola's going to help you tie down a win. I mean, he's going to help you protect a lead late in the game.
Here's the thing.
These are substitutes we're talking about
No,
here.
but if we're talking, okay, look, let's talk about roles first of all. Okay. So the group that played against Wales and Panama, Greg Berhalter with a European-based team started Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, and Yunus Musa, right? That was his trio in midfield.
I don't think that changes.
Gio Reyna on the right, and obviously on the left, he started whoever was standing there, Conrad at the time, I think in one of the games. But that's Christian Pulisic's position.
Pulisic spot.
All right. So that's 5 spots for Brendan Aronson, Paul Arriola, and Chris Mueller. Is that what we're saying? Mueller and Arriola are limited in the fact that they are purely wingers.
Leget's going to fall into that Adams, McKinney, Musa role. So that's different. That's a separate.
Leget is not a forward 3 player normally, although he did play that against Wales. Whereas Brendan Aronson, I think, can do multiple things. He's a little Gio Reyna in that respect. Yeah. He can play out on the wing a la Gio. But
if I have to win a game, Chris Mueller's the guy I want. If I want to protect a game, Pariola's the guy I want out of those.
I think
I'm not sure what Brendan Aronson gives me that's better than either of those 2 guys at those 2 things. Because Chris Mueller's going to have to stretch a team. That's what you want if you're trying to chase a lead. You want someone that's going to stretch the back line, get behind. Aronson's going to create, which is great. But if you're trying to win a game, it's going to be so compact. I don't know if you can do that. You're probably going to end up having to play the ball long, and you want a guy that can get on the end of it. I don't know.
Well, I don't know that this team is built to play. Is built to play long right now. I mean, do you see an option in the team that's that's your outlet for those long balls right now?
Unless you get someone like Akinola in there, I don't.
You can obviously do things like build up possession on one flank and then try to switch fields and find space that way. And I think they're good at. They can be good at that. Obviously, against better competition, that would be a better judge than what we saw tonight. But I mean, and look, here's there's a lot of comments coming in on this. Musa plays a wing midfield at Valencia, and so he can play outside, but he's better as a central mid. We identified that. Aronson is a game breaker. He can create on the wing. Well, you just took away my comment, but he's a game breaker. He can play on the wing, connect, press, etc. So, that's the multifaceted player. Now, is he as defensively strong as Arriola? Probably not, but I trust him better. I trust him more with the ball at his feet.
I would say that, and if it was a tie game, I'd probably bring Aronson in. It's weird. I have like a different feeling for each one of those 3 guys based on where the score line is in the game that you're playing. So it's really going to be tough for Berhalter to figure out which of these guys
the real game here for us. The real game. Talking about Marco Polo. Is what Connor is saying here. Which squad does Mueller make? Qualifying Gold Cup or Nations League? Now Mueller is overage. He can't play in the Olympics if I'm not mistaken. I think
he's like 25 or something at this point.
No, I don't think Mueller's 25. Well, and the other thing that throws a wrinkle in this from a Olympics perspective is that players who were eligible in 2020 will be eligible in 2021, even if they are technically too old for the cutoff based on the Olympic rules. Chris Mueller is 24. Okay. So he's already past that point. So if you're talking about players who are overage, qualifying Gold Cup, Nations League, Chris Mueller's
what's the schedule again? When's Nations League games being played?
Nations League is in June. So you have Nations League in June, Gold Cup in the summer, and then qualifying starting.
So what we're saying is Nations League is probably going to be a very similar team to the qualifying team.
Possibly. I mean, I don't think we yet know what Berhalter's going to do with that team.
I think with the season over in May, guys will get a break enough that they can come back for these Nations League games. I think you're going to see Europeans in that Nations League game. Maybe not your best, maybe not your highest level, but I think you're going to see a decent amount of Europeans in that. I would put him in Gold Cup. I think Chris Mueller has the potential to be the game changer in a Gold Cup team.
I mean, I'd be absolutely fine if there was a Gold Cup starting lineup in meaningful matches against the best teams in CONCACAF. And whatever they bring. I mean, Mexico may not bring their best team, obviously, but I'd be absolutely fine if Brendan Aronson and Chris Mueller in the starting lineup in a final. I'd be fine. I'd be okay with that, especially considering you're trying to build something towards that qualifying campaign, which starts in September, and most of those European guys are either going to need the break, especially after the 2020 that we're having right now. They're going to need that break. So give those domestically based. I mean, Aronson's going to be in Austria by that point, but I'm just saying, like, those are the kind of levels that we're talking about for these guys. And as we were talking about with Heath, it's not like you're counting on, you're not counting on these guys to take over for players that are in Europe or elevated on the hierarchy than that. You're just saying that you might get an opportunity. There're going to be games. There's going to be chances. Let's never forget that Connor Casey scored a pair of goals in Honduras to help the U.S. men's national team qualify for World Cup, right? Nobody thought Connor Casey. I mean, that's a different era, but nobody thought Connor Casey was going to be that guy. You might get your shot if you're in that mix.
So Connor's got a pick or poison for us. So let's see if we can do this one.
Holden, that's one. Yeah.
What'd I say?
You said Connor, I think.
Oh, I did. Didn't I? Wow. I must have looked at something else. I was looking at the other one in the chat. Who would you pick for World Cup qualifier for the 10/winger depth role? Sebastian or Aronson? So I thought about this a bit. I know instantly when you say 10 and winger, Aronson's the name that comes to your head. But if I think about World Cup qualifiers, I'm assuming the USA is going to be playing from a lead. And neither of these guys are thinking of him as substitutes.
Not necessarily true. I mean, again, you think
this US team won't be in lead positions in World Cup qualifiers?
A lot of times they will. Okay, a lot of times they will, but there's also, we're talking about for next year those three game sets, right? The windows where there are 3 matches. You could have a mixed bag. You could have absolute patsies that you're going to roll over, and then you could throw in a Costa Rica, or you could throw in a Mexico. So that to me means you have to call up a team for the toughest game you got on the schedule, right? So you're saying, oh, you're going to be playing from a lead. If I'm going to Costa Rica, why would I assume I'm playing from a lead? I would love to. When's the last time we had a lead in Costa Rica?
Because this is the first time we've ever had this many good players. You just finished a whole diatribe about being.
I realize that, but that hasn't been proven that they can do it yet. And I think it would be wrong for a coach to go, well, we're just going to roll in with this inexperienced group, and these guys have never seen this before, and it'll take care of itself because we have Christian Pulisic and Giovanni Reina. Like, I don't.
It's a bit of an unfair question because I don't think Sebastian Lletget is really either of those things. So it's obviously Aronson.
He's a juiced up 8. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's Aronson's position. The way it's defined there, 10/winger, that's Aronson. It fits his mold, but he's not going to start. So I'm asking myself, what positions will these guys be in? What is the game examples where these guys would actually be used as a sub? And I think most of the time the USA will be in lead positions. And I think that's going to be a securing standpoint, not a winning standpoint.
Well, in that case, you might. Well, I think Lletget can do the job, but in that case, you might be talking about you'd rather have Paul Arriola, even if you have.
Listen, here's the thing: it makes it completely moot. Greg Berhalter will take Sebastian Lletget to World Cup qualifiers. That if there's anything you can tell by the way he's played and field the teams, he's going to. If you're
gonna present that as a given, let's talk about some other. Now, Dallas says that the team is crazy deep in some positions, but dangerously thin at other spots. I worry about depth at left back and center back. Lots of depth at attacking mid and wingers. Okay, let's not talk about the front, the front 4, right? So the 3 forward line and the 10, the attacking midfield, the creative midfielder, right? Because we know that McKennie and Adams are there, but in terms of depth, left back, it's Dest if Cannon's starting, and then it's Anthony Robinson. Sam Vines didn't show enough tonight that you can count on him, but maybe he's one for the future, right? We just don't know.
Greg Berhalter will take 2 left backs and an extra right back if he has to.
Okay, there's that. And Dest can play both. Even though he's better on the right, he can play both sides. In terms of center back, we've already established that right now the 4 players who are really in the mix with this are Brooks. We know he's going to start.
Lock.
Aaron Long, Walker Zimmerman, kind of maybe, and Matt Miazga. Matt Miazga is obviously ahead of Zimmerman right now.
McKenzie?
Sorry, did I say 4? I meant 5. Obviously, McKenzie's in that mix too because I left him out. But I probably shouldn't throw Zimmerman in the mix because I don't know that we've seen enough evidence that he really is there.
Besides being Defender of the Year.
Well, that's true, but has he been in the national team picture recently enough?
Who has?
Good question. Good point. And McKenzie is brand new to it too. Okay, so let's put all 5 of them in. Is that not enough depth for you, Dallin?
I am not concerned at center back in terms of depth.
Okay.
I'm not. I'm concerned who's good enough to play against Brooks as a starter. I think they're all fine for the 23-man roster. Any number of those. I'm actually least high on Miazga at all.
Well, then let me do this. Okay. So you tell me it's a game against Mexico, points on the line, World Cup qualification. I know the schedule doesn't work out where the Mexico game is going to matter all that much, but let's imagine that it's down to that game and you have to get a point to advance to the World Cup. You have John Brooks and you're locking him in. And let's just go through the depth chart. Who are you feeling? Are you feeling confident if Aaron Long is starting next to John Brooks?
Yes.
Are you feeling confident if Walker Zimmerman's starting next to John Brooks?
Yes.
Are you feeling confident if Matt Miazga is starting next to John Brooks?
No.
Are you feeling confident if Mark McKenzie is starting next to John Brooks?
Not yet.
Okay, so when you say depth, you mean there are two players that you really have some faith in. The other ones are still works in progress.
Like I said, I think the starting position is all a question mark, but I think I'm happy with any of those as a pool center back if you have to use them on the 23-man roster. The starting position is the one that's I have least confidence in. Even if it's Aaron Long, I'm still not sure because we're not getting to see him and Brooks play enough together.
No,
that's my biggest issue.
Everybody, we're not getting a chance to see everybody play together, right?
But I mean, I'm far more confident in center back position than I am left back or striker, to be honest with you.
Okay, the other place that I'm actually, and Dallin didn't even bring this one up, but the other place that I'm kind of not concerned, but when I think about it, makes me kind of stop for a second. Because although Jackson Ewell had a very nice night against crappy El Salvador, how do you feel about the defensive midfield spot? How do you feel about that group?
The actual full roster?
How many defensive midfielders are you taking in a 23-man roster? 2?
Yeah, I mean, we're not considering Weston McKennie as the defensive midfielder.
Well, he can certainly do the job in a pinch, but I wouldn't trust him there right now. No.
Okay, so you're taking Tyler Adams.
Okay.
You're probably taking Jackson Ewell.
Sorry, that's not the right one. I wanted that one.
I'm on record saying Jackson Ewell's made for CONCACAF World Cup.
No, okay, that's true. Okay, so you like him probably more than the average fan does, though.
Yeah, but I would still play Weston McKennie there before I'd put Jackson Ewell there.
So your depth chart at the number 6 position, the defensive midfield position, is Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, Jackson Ewell?
Yes, off the top of my head, I don't think I'm missing anyone there. Are you feeling I'm missing someone? You got someone better?
No, I don't think that should fill you with confidence. That group.
I'm not expecting Jackson Ewell to start.
No, I understand that. And you may be able to rotate him in against El Salvador or against.
But here's the thing: if you end up putting Weston McKennie there, I think he's serviceable there. He's a ball winner, dude. The guy can win balls.
The problem with Weston McKennie is that his instincts don't allow him to be disciplined.
He's a grown ass man playing at Juventus now. He's going to figure that out.
Well, maybe he has to rest.
If Adams goes down, you have to play Weston McKennie there. It doesn't mean you're putting Jackson Ewell in the game. It means you're probably putting someone like a Brendan Aronson, or you're putting someone like these guys we've been talking about.
I know. Johnny Cardoso is worth a mention. I don't think he's there yet. He's brand new at Inter in Brazil and brand new to the national team picture. And a lot of these players are brand new. I mean, that's the thing. We didn't get a chance to see Frankie Amaya. We did get a chance to see Jackson Ewell. He's played a couple times for the national team now. Maybe he is the guy. BD Smokey says Acosta, which I don't think that's right. I don't think he's.
I don't think so. I think Jackson Ewell behind Sebastian Jet might be up there for one of the top 5 cap getters under Greg Berhalter. He's played a lot of games for Greg Berhalter at this point. The kid's good.
Yeah, no, he is. He absolutely is. All right. Anything else worth discussing here this evening? Are we going to go?
Christ looked pretty hot on the bench. I'm not going to lie.
Wait, what? In what way? Your team needs
to look a man, dude.
I was going to.
I was thinking about this while I saw him on the bench. I was like, man, it must suck to be Jason Christ. He's sitting behind Greg Berhalter, looking at his butt all game, and he's thinking, I won a championship with RSL. I won a championship. Like what? This guy coached Hammarby. Like Jason Christ, man, it's both a cool and sad story at times, man.
No, it is, but I do think he got railroaded in New York. I think that was not necessarily his doing. Obviously, Orlando was a bad.
Well, listen, U23, you take this team to a good finish at the Olympics, everything's back in play for Jason Christ.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's the thing about Jason Christ. Remember, he was sort of like the tactical savant in Major League Soccer with the 4-4-2 diamond back when that was a hot thing.
Yeah, not every team has Javier Morales on it. That's the problem.
Okay. This is true. By the way, Javi Morales not on the 25 greatest MLS players of all time, which if you listen to our bonus shows, which you can get on the Patreon at patreon.com/thebestsoccershow, I was a voter for the 25 greatest MLS players of all time. Jared and Nikki Soup and Sausage helped walk me through my ballot. We discussed some things. I argued with Jared.
Do any of the three of us have David Beckham on our roster?
Not a chance.
That's a crime
Not
against someone like
chance.
Javi Morales.
Yeah, there were a couple of names, and I need to really dig into it and try to find my ballot, which I lost somehow. But I need to dig into it because the name that is not there that bothered me the most immediately, the first one that came to mind, and there are probably other. Look, Carlos Ruiz.
Can I guess?
Yeah, go ahead.
Wando's
on there.
Oh, I thought he wasn't on there. I apologize.
No, Wando is on the 25. There's a name.
Who was it?
No, we talked about this actually in the Slack for the besties too. The player who epitomized the sort of the mid 2000s of Major League Soccer, a guy who could do multiple things. Talk about being an excellent number 6, a number 8, going up top when he needed to, playing the back line. Who are we talking about?
Heath Pierce. I mean, I had Keith's name written right here. I don't know why I was looking at it at the same time. I'm going to say Shalry Joseph.
It is Shalry Joseph, not one of the 25 greatest MLS players of all time, according to everybody except for me, I guess. I don't know.
Here's the thing. This tells you everything you need to know about the voters, whoever they had vote for this.
That was me. I voted.
Okay, but listen, you're not the only voter.
No, that's true.
The people who are voting for this, honestly, don't know MLS's history.
Oh, okay.
They don't.
But well,
because there's no way you would. There were many names on this list who are on this list for things they did in Europe.
This is true, probably
not for things they did in MLS.
I also think
Shalry Joseph is the most complete player that's ever played in this league.
I think there's also. By the way, it's a quirk of history. If you want to like a counterfactual and imagine what might have happened, and there, look, we had good players in spots he played. But he could have easily turned out to be a U.S. international if he hadn't decided to play for Grenada. He could have gotten he could have gotten the ability to play for the U.S. men's national team, and that would have been something else. Yeah. But I will digress on that. And we don't have a lot of time. We need to probably get out of here. But I just want to burn through these, and I want Jared Dubois' immediate reaction. I'm going to do all 25 rapid fire. You give me a yes or a no on whether they should be one of the 25 greatest MLS players of all time. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. Jeff Agus.
It wasn't on my list, but I understand.
So you're saying okay? You're okay?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Okay, so let me go.
He's got like 4 rings.
Yes, he does have 4 rings. Okay, Kyle Beckerman
wasn't on my list, but I understand. I'm okay with it.
David Beckham.
Suck me sideways. That doesn't belong, right?
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
That's an insult.
Carlos Bocanegra.
Carlos Bocanegra is a great player for things he did in Europe. He was a defender of the year in MLS. But what was he here? 3 years?
2-time defender of the year back to back. But yes, very short run with the Chicago Fire. Not one of the greatest, according to Jared Dubois. Dwayne De Rosario.
Absolutely. Rock star.
100% Dwayne De Rosario. Clinton Dempsey. Clinton Drew Dempsey.
What, three finals with New England, Rookie of the Year, and then did it with Seattle as well. I'm okay with that because he had a good amount on bookends on both sides.
Okay, I looked at his numbers. I don't think he is, but that's okay. I love Clint. I'm not going to argue with Deuce. I don't want him to come.
That's one of the only examples of name recognition on this list I'm okay with.
Okay. Landon Donovan, no doubt. Yeah, right? Okay. Marco Echeverri.
No. What did Marco play? 4 years?
7th all-time in assists. And with 101. I mean,
so that means there's 6 midfielders with more assists than him that probably aren't on this list.
He had 7 years in DC from 96 to 03.
He played to 03?
Played to 03.
Okay, I'm telling you right now, 01 through 03 aren't MLS top 25 level.
4-time best 11. Obviously won 3 cups with DC.
Let me guess, 96 to 2000.
His what? His best 11s?
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. Consistency means something to me for some reason. I don't know. Narcha, great name, great person, great player in his time, but no.
Okay. Robin Fraser.
Yes.
Sebastian Giovinco.
No.
No.
One of the most popular and best players that were ever here, but how many years did he play here?
I think we argued about Giovinco because the burn
electrifying,
but it was white hot. Like that is fire for
That dude
5
burned
years.
like
4 years.
magnesium, hot and fast.
4 years. Oh, 15 to 18. 4
But
years.
last year, completely injured last year, right?
The last season he was there, I don't really remember that.
I don't remember his last season being as strong as
It
the first
was
year.
the year that Toronto dropped off. You're right. So that was because they had won the treble the year before,
Yeah.
and then dropped off. Kevin Hartman,
Yes.
Kobe Jones,
Yes.
Robbie Keane,
Yes.
Chad Marshall.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. It wasn't my pick, but I understand it, and I'm okay
He was
with it,
definitely on my list.
Listen, Inland Empire, you know I'm not going to fight against someone from the IE.
Okay. For me, Chad Marshall, it was all about the fact he won 3 Defenders of the Year awards, and he did it in 2 places,
2 clubs, yeah.
back to back in 08-09, and then did it in 2014 with Seattle.
I think Chad Marshall should have got the Boca Negra spot, and someone else probably should have got Boca Negra.
I would not argue with that one. Here's one that's going to be Joseph Martinez.
All-time 25 worst ACL. What is this?
Man, that's mean. First of all,
again, burned white hot. He had 2 great seasons.
I know. 3
Are fans voting for this?
I don't know. I argued for this guy. I can't remember if you did. Tony Miola.
I don't think I had on my list, but I was totally fine with that pick. Here's the thing. Here's everything you need to know about the people who voted for this. Carlos Ruiz isn't on the list, and Joseph Martinez is.
Okay.
Tells you everything you need to know.
All right. Jaime Moreno.
Yes.
Eddie Pope.
Yes.
Preki.
Hell yeah.
Steve Ralston.
Hell yes.
That we're in the old guy section of the list. That's where Jared lives.
No, don't you start. Steve Ralston, original Rookie of the Year, played his entire career here, all-time leading assist getter until Atlanta Donovan took him over.
I know. Nick Raimondo.
Yes.
By the way, fun fact: Nick Raimondo never won Goalkeeper of the Year, not once,
because they couldn't see him. He's too short.
Carlos Valderrama.
No.
I'm with you on that. I just think that the run was too short. He had 4 years, and
It's the same. It's the Giovinco thing again.
5 years, 4.5 years, something like that. Yeah. But you know, and they were they double counting assists when he played? Because
he had a lot of assists. I'm not gonna lie.
Diego Valeri.
Sure. Yes.
Sure. Chris Wondolowski, no doubts.
Yes.
Bradley Wright Phillips is the last one.
Again, Carlos Ruiz or Brian Phillips. Bradley Wright Phillips has more right on this list than Joseph Martinez does.
I agree with that. But I would say Ruiz, Twellman, there might even a guy like Razov might have more of a argument than a Martinez.
Joseph Martinez, yeah. Brian Shing has more than Joseph Martinez.
I don't know. Brian Shing wasn't all that productive.
Won championships.
He won
Won
championships.
as many as Joseph Martinez did.
That's okay. Yeah, that's a good point. All right. I just wanted to see how you felt about that. We went on overtime, bonus material for people. I just wanted to see how you felt because we won't get back together until Sunday.
Dude,
so
people are high as they filled out that ballot.
Do you blame them in 2020 though?
I blame them for not watching old vintage MLS stuff. If you're going to vote on things,
people are day drinking on a Wednesday.
Man, there's people that were probably born like in '94 that voted for this that didn't see any of these guys play.
Their opinions are no less valid than yours, Mr. Dubois.
How so? if you weren't there to witness it, how can you vote on it?
So only people
they're going through stat books.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Oh, Valderrama had a lot of assists. Yeah, he never won a championship. He was on terrible teams.
Big hair. And
he played against part-time plumbers.
He did play against part-time plumbers in Major League Soccer. That's a good point. Those guys were on 12.5 a year.
4 years, you got to take with a grain of salt.
They were coaching girls soccer teams on the side, and they're out there trying to defend Carlos Valderrama. The man had acres. He had acres to play in back in the day. Come on. All right. Patreon.com/thebestsoccershow. We are ramping up at the Patreon page. It's really actually kind of fun. Jared's dropping videos with disc golf. By
the way, did you see the disc golf chat I put in here at one point?
I don't care about
that. I left it up there for a while for you.
I don't care about that. I don't care about disc golf. Maybe I'll play one day. Who knows? I don't know if I can,
because I just sent you disc. You will play.
You're gonna force me to do that. We're gonna do all kinds of stuff, videos, behind the scenes, Nicholas Soup and Sausage involved in some of these things.
Monthly Zoom for all the people on Patreon. They got a pre-match Zoom pre-game talking about the game. So thanks for everyone that showed up for that. If you want to get on the Patreon, patreon.com/bestsoccershow.
The Best Soccer Show. Make sure you put the in there because we are the best soccer show. Not just, it's like Ohio State. Now, I'm not necessarily an Ohio State person. I know Nicholas Soup and Sausage doesn't like Ohio State very much.
Hell no.
Okay, thank you very much. But they do insist on being called the Ohio State University. We are the best soccer show. Okay, got to drop it in. And Don Fredo can get out of here with all that nonsense. Talking about Screeching Weasel better than Big Timers. You're wrong, man.
They couldn't even spell timers right.
That is how they spelled. Oh, they couldn't? Oh, come on.
But Screeching isn't. I mean,
I guess like a punk band has never used a stylized spelling. Come on. I'm just saying this one wasn't. All right, what else? Ratings and reviews. I don't know if we have any new reviews on the show. Thanks, Nick. Nothing for us now, but go to iTunes or Apple Podcasts or whatever. 5 stars because we're your boys and you love us, and drop in a comment. Give us something you love from the show. I'd love to get some interaction going through the reviews. Like, tell us what your favorite moment is. Give us your thoughts on disc golf, I guess, or I don't know, Old Dad FC, which is still we're chugging along. We got a new update on Old Dad FC that I shared.
You got a portrait. You want to show your portrait real quick?
My kids, can I put my kid's picture on the internet? Like, is that a thing
you
you're
guys should
supposed to do?
Just be prepared. It looks like when Quado came out of that guy's stomach in Total Recall.
Oh,
Quaid.
I'm only doing that because it's not his actual picture. A fight I got into with my wife today. This is that.
Those guys on the podcast, go watch the YouTube and see
3D imaging thing. It's not actually his picture. Anyway, and I dropped his name in the bonus show the other day, so only special people who pay for the Patreon know who is.
Quality name. I'm not gonna lie. Quality name.
I appreciate that. I got the seal of approval on the name. All right, I think that's so. I always feel like I'm forgetting something, but I think that's it. Right, we're done. We're out of here.
Hey, 6-0 to the U.S.
6-0 to the good guys, the United States of America. We'll talk to you guys on Sunday. Bye.
And or hello.
Get to the chopper!
So feel respect for the game.
What are we doing?
I wouldn't be caught dead in a sweater vest.
Oh, it's incredible!
Damn, dog. You're not pro.
What have you done for me lately?
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me. Shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
But unfortunately, this is Los Angeles. I need more than talent. I need stars. Enjoy the party.
Michael freaking Arastro!
Jay Rodius.